It is 6:30 and members of council are assembled.
Okay, thank you, Don. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome all members of the committee and welcome everybody from the public who's joining us here in the council chambers this evening and watching us from home. We're glad you're with us. The second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and we'll turn it over to Councillor Mayette for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We acknowledge we are meeting in the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the Saugeen. Let me start over that paragraph. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for their contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you, Councillor. Next item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda. There are no open forum requests this evening. So we're on to delegations, and we do have 3 delegations. And so just before we get into those, 2 things. One, I'll remind all of our delegations that council has allotted 10 minutes to hear your delegations. So we appreciate it if you'd stick to that timeline for us. And if you do reach 10 minutes, I will chime in and just let you know to wrap it up. And the second item that I wanted to raise before we get into them is we do have one in-person delegation this evening, which is nice. Lynn Tatey is here. She's going to speak to us in person, but I wanted to let folks who are watching online know that you won't be able to see Ms. Tatey. You'll be able to hear her, but not see her. We're hoping that we're going to get to the point before too long where we'll have the technology in these chambers to enable our delegations in person to be seen and heard, but we're just not quite there yet. So, so apologies for that. But with that, then we'll go on to our delegations. Our first delegation is on the Nuclear Innovation Institute, and we have Bruce Wallace here to speak to us about that. So we turn it over to Mr. Wallace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just going to load up my deck. Oh, sorry. Are we good?
We're good. We got you.
You got it?
Yep, we do.
Terrific. Thank you very much. And thanks for the opportunity to for the invitation to speak tonight. It's terrific. I'm just across the parking lot from you in your chambers, and I've seen a spectacular midwinter sky. And I have to say, since we first came to this building and I sit in my office, I've seen some pretty incredible skies out over the lake. And I've also seen some pretty wild storms and some windstorms. So I just wanted to assure council that the roof is solid and sound. It's very good. And no balloons in sight tonight either. But thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm just going to see if trying to get my screen to, there we go. And there it is. First of all, I wanted to let council know how proud we are to call Saugeen Shores home, and how grateful we are for the support that you've given us. It was your community that understood the vision of what NII could be from the very start. And it was your community that stepped up to offer us a place to hang our hat when we needed one. So you've been and you continue to be just a wonderful host to us. We believe in turn that we're a good partner as well. From the very beginning, we were determined that NII would be a community player. We never wanted this building or NII itself to be a black box where people wondered what goes on in there. We wanted our doors to be open to people, to community groups. We wanted it to be a place that NII to be a place that was a community asset. And that's why we spent quite a lot of money, significantly more than what we promised initially, but to renovate this building into something that's unique for the area. And you know what? It was the right call, because we've not just added value to a town asset, but we've created a space that people like to visit. People like coming here. I know you had your orientation here, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves, but I'll tell you, there's a long list of people and community groups who have discovered the NII space and who like coming back. The Southampton Hospital Foundation has been a frequent partner in here. The Chamber of Commerce held a mixer. The United Way holds board meetings here. Very importantly to us, we held more than a dozen vaccination clinics, including early ones for some of the most vulnerable seniors at the beginning. So more than a dozen COVID vaccination clinics during time when things were tough. Handbags for Hospice came to us for 2 years in a row when they couldn't hold their fundraiser because of COVID, and we created a sort of almost a television studio in the back, so we're able to broadcast out that Handbags for Hospice fundraiser, and they were able to conduct their auctions. Never missed a beat. Businesses come here if they're looking to invest in the region and want to talk with local officials or leaders or investors. Even the Chambettes I hear are coming by at some point soon. We're ready for them. The other vow we made to ourselves, however, was that we were going to do things that delivered value to the community. Everything we did, we wanted to talk about how we would have an impact. So keeping in mind that we have 2 lines of business here at NII, we do industry innovation projects with our partners who set us up, but we also do lots of programs that have community impact. On the business side, not the business side, it's on the industry side, I'd say. Our projects tend to focus on things, new emerging technologies, things like robotics and using LiDAR cameras. We do some 3D printing work, just to give you a little taste of the kinds of things that go on. A lot of data science work. We're finding a lot of demand for data science. And of course, data science is something that's very applicable in all industries, but can also, once that expertise is here, can be shared and moved out for all sorts of municipal related projects. STEM for Students is reflected in our NII Explore program, which is one of the things that personally I'm most proud of since that we've done in the 3 years here. We've engaged over 10,000 students across the region. We've been in 94% of the schools in Bruce and Grey counties. We're teaching teachers how to teach coding because it's now part of the Ontario curriculum, and including just producing what's on the way, a 300-page book on on how to teach coding, so it can be a sort of a standing teacher's aid in that sense. All of this started with something that was kind of a stopgap measure during the early days of COVID, when we wanted to do something to help families and teachers and students sort of just deal with the stresses of early days, and it's grown into a program that is really a fundamental part of the educational landscape here. We run special events like a Mission to Mars program. We've written a comic book to try to explain climate change and why fossil fuels are so dangerous. We brought students in and we broadcast out. All of this is work that is not really provided elsewhere, and all of it is free. We also do a lot of work in sort of that horribly named but still important area called thought leadership. And a lot of that is about sort of raising awareness of in and around issues about clean energy and climate change. You know, we're asking people to come to grips with something that is really difficult, that they've never had to think about where their electricity comes from, or the impact of burning fossil fuels and how that's going to change our lives. We see ourselves as being on the side of people, helping them understand these challenges, helping them understand some of the complexities, and the role that nuclear power plays in that, including the role that nuclear power can play when it connects with the other economic sectors that matter to our region here. We worked on one of the first projects around electric vehicle infrastructure and the need for it as a crucial component of a tourist-based economy. And we've been working with the agricultural community on a project, an almost $1 million project, actually looking at ways to see if there are ways to monetize marginal farmland by making them eligible for carbon sequestration. All by way of saying that it's connecting the nuclear industry to the other industries and the other sectors that matter here. When we speak up for nuclear, we talk about its role and its potential to help build a clean energy future, the role that nuclear plays in electrification, the role that it plays in energy storage, the role that it can play in developing a hydrogen economy. And we take that message to Parliament Hill and we take it to Queen's Park, and we make sure that they understand that as well. Really work hard at strengthening communities, though. I'm sure you've heard of that the Smart Beaches program, which is taking place just down the shoreline, but it's using technology, both sensors and algorithms, to see if we can identify rip currents that are dangerous and often deadly. And that's something that's applicable right up and down the shoreline. And we're running a multi-year research project to see if we can figure out what's choking Fairy Lake and what we can do to change it and to make it healthier. We also talk about bringing technology opportunities to Bruce Grey and Huron. This was one of the foundational elements of our excuse me, of our mandate mission. Just 1 second. It's dry. I'll have to do something about the HVAC. But the Swerve Festival that we held in Southampton last fall was the biggest and best expression of that. We had almost 4,000 people through the doors at the arena in Southampton, but we remade that arena into a special place and brought in things that you don't normally see here. So it's something that we're very proud of. So what's next? Well, more of the above, really. More applications for technologies, seeing how they can be used in municipal growth for healthy growth, more STEM in schools, more specialist extracurricular programs. We're working now in skilled trades and developing a capability of working with colleges and others in that area. We're also talking this year, and we believe we're going to do it, to be able to build a digital hub to help people understand some of the science in and around climate change and localize it and make that understandable here. And of course, we're going to hold more swerves, because that was an event that we believe was incredibly successful, both for the organization, but also for people of all ages around the county. We'll remind everybody, or around the town. We'll remind you that it was free. I don't think we're going to do something as big as the Five Ring Festival that we held last year. That would put a lot of stress on this organization, and people might not forgive me if we did. But we'll do some smaller, more mobile ones throughout this year, and we'll come back with a big one again in 2024. So all in all, some more surprises, more of what we don't have now, more of what our communities need. And we want to do that from here. So I'm also here tonight to talk about our long-term commitment to Saugeen Shores. Reminder that NII is a not-for-profit organization. Now, the current rent-free lease on this building has been incredibly helpful to getting us started and getting us off the ground, especially since we lost nearly 2 years of that to COVID, where we couldn't really do too much. And we also know that with the recreation center coming, this is going to be a wonderful location for us to be in the long term. Our educational work, our community partnerships are just an excellent fit for what you have planned here. And we really do want to be part of that. Until it's built and opened, of course, we're going to be enduring some of the inevitable disruptions that come with sharing a construction zone. And one of the things I'm asking council to consider tonight, please, is to extend support for keeping our rent-free status for 4 more years. In turn, we undertake to work with your staff to agree on a formula that also works for both of us after that period, with the goal that NII will be able to call Saugeen Shores home for a long time to come. And that's all I have to say is that I hope I made it in under the 10 minutes, Mr. Mayor.
You absolutely did. Thanks very much for that. And so 2 things I just want to comment on before we certainly turn it over to questions or comments from members. One, made a request there this evening, Bruce, so we will be referring that to our staff, who will come back to us with a recommendation. So there will be some discussion on that. No decision tonight on that issue, I guess, is the point I'm trying to drive home. It will come back. And the other point I wanted to make was a personal point, which is important for me to make. For full disclosure, I am a member of the Nuclear Innovation Institute's Board of Directors, and by appointment from the County of Bruce. And I have reviewed that with the Integrity Commissioner, and the Integrity Commissioner has advised me that I do not have a pecuniary interest in this matter and do not need to recuse myself from discussions with regard to the Nuclear Innovation Institute. So just to disclose that to council and the public. So with that, I'll ask if there are questions or comments from members. Councilor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Bruce, for the presentation. One of the most exciting aspects of your presentation is the ALICE program that you mentioned. I wondered if you could maybe give an example for viewers at home of what kind of project you would be working on in that.
Absolutely, as long as it doesn't require too much science background. No, so the idea is that if you, we need to find ways to take carbon out of the atmosphere and to sequester it and to store it underground or in other places for long, extended periods of time. And that requires new technologies to do so properly and technologies to measure it, to make sure that it actually is being stored and kept as promised. But this is work that's going on around the world, but this is a fairly advanced project here, working with an umbrella organization that is looking for innovative opportunities in agriculture. They are co-leading this project. They are identifying farmland. They've identified, I think, up to 600 acres, although please don't quote me on that. I'll correct that if we're wrong, of farmland that can be used to sequester carbon. And then they will participate in drawing up the protocols to make sure that it's properly sequestered and developing the technologies to properly measure that carbon to make sure that it's actually being pulled from the atmosphere. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention there is it happens annually, Politicians Day. I think this year it's over in Katy, and it's put on by the, I think, Grey Bruce Agriculture Societies. And it's a wonderful day where they have presentations by lots of different, facets, representatives from different aspects of agriculture. But when I was looking on the Alice website, and I saw that there's a local farmer in Port Elgin who, I'm sure there are more than one, but there's one in particular that they focused on. I was just thinking it'd be great. I don't know if it's too late to invite a representative from your organization or from Alice to go and make a presentation. It'd be great if members of the agricultural community learned more about this project. Because it is, I think, really, really important in fighting climate change and soil erosion and all kinds of environmental issues for us. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Though we'd first of all, it's a nice merger of our missions, which is one is sort of public education to help people understand some of these new concepts. And come to grips with them, in addition to running the project. So absolutely, Chad Richards, who leads that project here at NII, may be familiar to some of you, is first of all much better informed than I am on this. I'll acknowledge, but also a terrific communicator and communicating the opportunities here and the ability to scale a project like that much beyond where the pilot that it is right now are very, very important to us. So absolutely.
Thank you. Are there further comments from members? The Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. And through you, I actually attended the information day where they gave some initial results from the Fairy Lake study, and it was very well received and very fascinating, and look forward to more of that. So that's a great program. Thank you very much for doing that. I also very much appreciate all of the efforts you're making at bringing science and technology education out to kids in schools. I think that's very vital for the future of not only our area, but the future of humankind in general. I also want to thank you for being available and willing to partner with local groups to provide some resources and space and some expertise associated with a number of things. So thank you very much for that.
Very good. Are there further comments or questions from members? I don't see anyone, so thank you very much. Bruce, I can say that the municipality is just as pleased to be a partner with the Nuclear Innovation Institute as the Institute is to be here. And my position on the Innovation Institute gives me an opportunity to see the incredible, up close, some of the incredible work that is going on there. And it's amazing because, and we don't really know it, but very often we have some of the top leaders in the nuclear industry on Earth present just across the street from this facility, right? Like they got, the board of directors, just the board of directors alone, the top leaders in that industry in Canada, and then to have that happening and the innovation that's associated with that happening right here in Saugeen Shores is incredible, and all the spin-off benefits that our community can reap as a result of having that activity here. It's an incredible thing for our community. And so we just really appreciate your partnership and the work that you're doing over there, Bruce, and your personal leadership there. I have to say, you've been a tremendous leader there, and always been open to our staff, I know, and particularly those, those vaccination clinics is a shining example of how you folks and you in particular have always looked for ways to support things that our community needs and when it's critical. And so I couldn't ask for a better friend or a better partner than the NII. So thanks so much for coming in tonight. And as I say, we're going to consider your request, and you can expect council to discuss that in the near future.
Thanks very much. It's very kind.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so now we're on to our second delegation, which is from Ms. Lynn Tatey, and Lynn is in the room here tonight. So we'll invite Lynn up to the podium, and her delegation is on a number of subjects. Ms. Tatey.
Testing. Hello, this evening I'm here to speak to several topics, and I'm actually going to ask that maybe some of the information be referred to another delegation, just because of the attendance of one of the people that were to be attending, they couldn't come today as well. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all for choosing to be members of council. It's a huge commitment. It takes you away from your families, it takes you away from your businesses and your occupations and all the other commitments you have in your life. You have chosen to do this, and you have the energy to follow through with it. I know I don't have the personal health to be able to do that. It's something that something you're doing that is very respected by myself, and I appreciate all the time that you give towards the community. I'm speaking today to encourage you in a few areas of it's mostly, I'm speaking about accessibility. Now, when I speak about accessibility, I'm not just speaking of physical accessibility. I'm speaking about accessibility across the board for our community. In speaking of this, I'd like to just tell you a few things about why I'm here. And why I'm here is because of my father-in-law. My father-in-law, Harry Tatey, was a long-term council member in Saugeen Township. And actually, he was warden of the county the year that my husband and I married in 1998. He was a very much for Saugeen Township, but he was also very much for Bruce County. He was very much for his whole province, his whole country. But he was a man with tenacity. He was someone that spoke to me about many things related to politics that he didn't bother talking to my husband about. And I'll just put it that way, that my husband's interest in politics is much less than his father's. The reason why I'm speaking to you is that there's many things that have kind of gotten off by the wayside that aren't being carried through from past councils. And there's information that was brought forward from the time that of amalgamation. There was reports that were brought forward. There was also, do you mind if I just tip this there? Sorry, I'm a little taller. My neck's gonna be sore. So there's a lot of things that letters have been written and kind of reminders. There's been delegations to council. There's been different things over the years since amalgamation. But one thing that I'd like to speak to is the fact that the reason why bridges and roads matter is accessibility. So back when these bridges were built, some of them are quite old, and we have reasons to have access to those properties on either side, but it's not just the either side of the bridge, it's also what community that links things to, and also the roads that it links things to. So when you're talking about roads and you're talking about beaches and you're talking about bridges and you're talking about other matters that I've come to speak to you about related to internet, say that's on the river road where we live, it's really bad. So to come to a council meeting by Zoom is pretty tough. The last one I tried to do it, I did by phone because it was just gonna fail. So we just decided that we'd wait till I could be in person if I was gonna do anything with, doing any kind of contact with council. So when we speak about accessibility, some accessible locations, for access to the beaches in Saugeen Shores were sold off. And the way they were sold off is they were declared surplus and immediately sold to the adjacent landowner long before anyone was aware this was gonna happen. So it would happen very quickly. It would be a part of process that the public weren't aware of, that certain land was being sold off. If you weren't within the next door neighbor of these things happening, you might have heard about it when it was actually in council, where it was declared surplus land and sold off. So there's many laneways that were closed off and sold to the next adjoint. Just to give an example, they were sold off in the early 2000s, and many people access the beach by these lanes. So they were, so you'd talk 2 to 3 roads up, would walk to that lane to walk to the beach. That is one way that you block off accessibility, is selling off those lanes. Unfortunately, it was done. It was maybe done with lack of experience. It was maybe done with, I'm not even sure exactly how it happened, but it did happen and it shouldn't have happened. When I say shouldn't, I don't even like to say that. I don't even like the word shouldn't have. Something you want to prevent. It's something that you want to go forward and not do repeatedly. So even with things like the money that was set aside by Saugeen Township for the River Road rebuild that gets used on the River Range Road instead by error. Whose error was it? It was an error that happened in the 2000s. So this money, and I kind of had a laugh. I heard a little story about Hazel McCallum. She was the mayor of Streetsville, and she was really upset with Bill Davis and the amalgamations taking place. And her town, Streetsville, was going to be part of that amalgamation. She was upset. And so she pushed for all the spending of all the money that was set aside for infrastructure in Streetsville, and it went into infrastructure. Every last dime of it, except for enough to have a party at the end to thank all their volunteers. There's pretty much the money was spent, and that's what she did. My father-in-law asked me to be that voice, that he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't be a council member that would push for that. He knew that he was entrusting the future councils of Saugeen Shores to do that, to follow through with the studies that were done, to follow through with the money that was set aside in infrastructure, to follow through with the planning that was done, 5-10-year planning, 20-year planning that has still not happened. So I'm here doing that. I can hear him right here telling me to get doing it, Lynn. So I'm going to speak about the bridges. I'm going to leave it that I will be providing some information once I can dig it out, because now we can actually access the website. The website's sort of designed much better that you can actually access things better, which wasn't the case. Twice a year, I would send a request. Can you please update the website so that those of us in rural Saugeen Shores can use it? Because where we live, we couldn't. You would try, you would wait, you would hesitate, and now the website is much quicker. So that's a great improvement. Coming to a council meeting is tough enough for me, who I have enough counsel, or I have enough confidence to do it. But to do a Zoom meeting is out of my comfort zone in some ways, in that I can't be dependent on my internet even. So it may seem like a very odd thing for someone like myself to not be able to do a Zoom meeting, but there's many, many reasons why it's inaccessible. I don't want to spend the money on a new computer either. I might have the money for a new computer, but I've got other priorities. somebody might have a priority that they want to eat this week, or they want to pay their rent. I think that we need to have it that, and you've now said that there's allowed that, like I'm actually allowed to be here in person. So my reason for needing this accessible is totally different from another's, but it's still really important that the rest of the people that really have true, way bigger accessibility issues than I have, like that this is part of why in-person is important. The other accessibilities related to infrastructure have to do with that as well. When you talk about the public access to the beaches, and you've blocked off many of the, not you, the town of Saugeen Shores blocked off many previously accessible points at the beach. I want to say this to this council, don't let it continue to happen. It needs to be something that when you look at open space land, you look at parkland, selling off parkland that maybe has been a park for generations. Even the talk of Cameron Park is actually one of the topics that I'd just ask why that would be so important to sell that off.
So we have
Yeah.
passed over the 10-minute mark, Ms. Day,
Okay.
so if you can
Yeah.
wrap it up, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, so just in wrapping it up, one of the things that I do ask is that the opportunity to bring back some information related to the bridges. One quick thing is the order of the bridge is exactly backwards to the actual traffic studies that were done. So the most trafficked studied, or the three were all studied, and the one most traveled was actually the one that you're not even talking about yet. So that's an example of things that I think that the history and the reports and everything need to be brought forward, needs to be understood, why it's important. And the same thing goes with the other topics. I will be requesting for a further delegation through Dawn, and I appreciate the help that Dawn's given me for doing this today. Thank you.
Sure, yeah, you can always come back on other subjects, Lynn, so no problem there. Are there questions or comments from members? We got the deputy mayor and then the vice deputy mayor.
Thank you, and through you, I think Harry would be proud that you were here. So it's not an easy thing to come and speak before council. So thank you very much for being with us, Lynn. I picked up a couple of things from your presentation, and I just wanted to repeat them because they resonate very deeply with why I'm sitting here again. And I just think they're worth repeating. One was that we need to think before we make decisions, because the value of what we're doing can transpire into something completely different years down the road. So we can't always predict those things, but we need to think very clearly about the actions that we're talking about to make sure that we're doing what we honestly think is the right thing for the future of the community. So thank you very much for suggesting that we need that's a good thing, because it is a good thing. The other thing that you said that I picked up on was about how some things have been said or decided upon in the past, and then they end up not happening, or maybe in a report on a shelf. And I would just like to encourage all my fellow members of council here for us to pay attention during this term of council. And when something shows up before us that there's a carryover into a future meeting or a future budget year, or even like 3 or 4 years down the road, that we try and remember that. And every now and again we say, oh, what's going on with that? And I've actually noticed already that I've gone back to look in minutes from the past couple of years. And every now and again, there's something that says something along the lines of council directed staff about something, and something would be coming back to council later. And then I go looking for what would have come back, and it hasn't come back here yet, which I don't suggest it's been forgotten. Sometimes things just take a long time. So it's important that we have a bit of memory about decisions or actions that have been taken. I also appreciated the way the third thing would be related to how accessibility means a lot of different things. So thank you very much for being here tonight, Lynn, and keep sending letters and come back when you're ready to talk about something again. Thank you.
Thank you.
The vice,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, good. Thanks. And thanks for your presentation, Len. And I had the good fortune to serve on the Cenotaph Committee with Harry for over 10 years. And we had lots of good chats at the Cenotaph Committee, but the beer after at the Legion was even better. Had a lot of good times with Harry. And so thanks for being here tonight and speaking about him and just reminding us all of what a great man he was. And Lynn, I just wanted to draw it to your attention, and something you might want to, you can talk to probably Kristen Schreider or the clerk's office, but back in 2004, there was a beach access study done. All the beach access points were inventoried, and there's about 56 of them. And that's in a catalog, Lynn, you might want to, because you spoke to it earlier about shutting down beach access points. I don't recall ever selling one of those in my 20 years around this table. I would be hard pressed to ever support selling off a beach access point. I don't think we have, but if there was one, then I stand to be corrected. But Lynn, get your hands on that beach access study. It catalogs all 56 beach access points. It's a really good report. That's the one comment. And secondly, that bridge information, Lynn, I'd be very interested in seeing what you have. I guess you're going to be sharing that with all the council in the future. So whatever information you do have, I'd like to see it. I think that'd be some interesting information to look at. So, and you know, I think your comments about zooming in, not having the capabilities to do that is something that we all need to be aware of. We want to make sure that meetings are accessible to all members of the public, and anything we can do to make things better in the future, Lynn, then we need to do that. So, but thanks for your presentation, and I enjoyed hearing your words about Harry too. So thanks a lot, Lynn.
Sure. Just to turn your mic back on there, Lynn. Sorry.
Sorry. So from the standpoint of the 56 beach location points, the sell-off might have happened before the inventory was done. But definitely there were points that were sold off. And when we talk about open space and we talk about use of these kind of studies that are done on bridges, the records are here. So the records are here to pull out on the study. I just know from the verbiage of what is in those reports from my father-in-law. And I know that it was very important to him. So the studies are here. They were done prior to amalgamation. And there was many reports, staff reports, all related to it. So that is why I'm not really going to further speak to that right now. That's going to be later. It's going to give a chance for staff to actually maybe pull those out, although they should have been pulled out before any bridges were studied, not done kind of maybe the way they did. Sometimes what happens though is someone brings forward a concern from a citizen, and if that citizen is the loudest one, they get maybe get heard before the ones that are waiting patiently, quietly, again, for another 20 years, hopefully not.
Okay, I think we'll get Councillor Mayette and then Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks, Lynn, for coming. We spoke earlier, and I appreciate that you're our first in-person delegation. I hope there's many more to come. With regards to your father-in-law, Harry and I were also very well acquainted, and he's probably one of the main reasons that I'm sitting here today as well. I just, on your comments about bridges and gravel roads, I can assure you that as the one representative that truly represents Saugeen Ward, I can assure you that I'll be keeping my eye on allocations of funds when it comes to our bridges and improving our gravel roads and loose surface roads, and particularly the river road, which is long overdue. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Lynn, thanks for your delegation today. And I just want to say that I believe as a council, we are really concerned about people having access to the council, people being able to reach us. And I believe that the direction we're going, it's going to be easier for people to zoom in. I believe that the way we're headed to be, it's going to be people who are making a personal delegation will be able to seen by those who are watching online. And just that accessibility is important to me. I hear you on that. And I believe we're making strides to filling in all the holes that are out there with high-speed internet. And I know there's a few of them out there and they can be stubborn to reach, but that is something this council is concerned about. And thank you for your delegation tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Are there further comments from members? Just quickly, Lynn. Sure.
So related to BMTS, the sell-off of BMTS and the ownership of Saugeen Township owning it now is in the ownership of Kincardine, the town of Kincardine. The town of Kincardine has not allocated funds towards their infrastructure related to the BMTS. That is the only system that serves my location of Many. And in my location from Burgoyne, we're talking very, very poor internet. The up speed or the down speed, you people that know what that means, it's just not possible to do a proper Zoom. I might be able to hear it. I can see YouTube, but I can't, like, it's just not possible. So that is something that needs to be talked with your fellow community adjacent to you in Kincardine. The allocations of the funds related to the MTS have not been allocated appropriately through the years where you would do normal upgrades of their system.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And yeah, and there's lots of work obviously being done in lots of areas on connectivity. And I just wanted to make the comment because I think we haven't spoken perhaps, well, really at all clearly, I think, since the pandemic about accessibility to our council meetings and how that works. We haven't, we've sort of nominally been open to the public all along, at least since the province lifted the moratoriums on gatherings of more than 2 or 3 people. But I just wanted to make it clear to you and to every member of the public who's listening that council meetings are open to the public. Members of the public are welcome to come into the chambers during council meetings anytime. The experience isn't great because we don't have the technology yet. You can't see. So a couple of the folks who've been speaking to you, you can't see, and they can't see you, which is unfortunate and obviously not acceptable. We need to get to a point where we can have that level of interaction with a hybrid model. So, but I do want to just say clearly to the public that council meetings are open to the public. Folks can come in person if you don't have a stable internet connection, or even if you do, you're welcome to come to these chambers during any public meeting of council. So hope you'll help us spread that word, Lynn, and if anybody's listening, they can spread it as well.
So just to follow up with that too.
No, sorry.
Sorry about that. So the follow up to that is I've spoken with Dawn and she's going to look into it because it isn't on your website that it is open or that it is possible. So it's just something that I had a lot of calls saying, well, we can't be in person. It's not allowed. It's not part of the, it's not available. And I said, well, it is. And they said, well, it's not on the website. Well, actually, I hadn't looked at the website again to find out who it was, but Dawn's going to look into that.
Yeah, no, it's like I say, we probably haven't done a good enough job communicating about it, so we need to do that, and we will. So thank you very much for your time this evening. We appreciate it very much, Lynn. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're on to our third delegation, which is from Marsh Canada Limited, and we have Maribel Ubil here to speak to us from Marsh Canada.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks. Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight with regards to your insurance. Let me just see if I can share the screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, we can see.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight. I think we have about 30 minutes to do the presentation. I will
You
try
have 10 minutes this
10
evening.
minutes.
So 10
Okay,
minutes.
I will try to keep it at 10 minutes. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Maribel Ubiel. I'm the client executive and insurance contact at Marsh Canada. Tonight, I will be presenting with John Ankal, who is my colleague, and he is a national risk management leader at public sector. So I'm going to just go through this presentation. Agenda tonight is, to talk about the purpose of this presentation, to talk about the company overview, the industry insight, and the program overview. And I will be speaking about the insurance, and John will be speaking about the risk management portion of the presentation. So basically, the purpose is to provide an overview of Marsh Canada Limited and public sector practice and our approach to providing tailored insurance and risk management services, to provide insight into the current state and trends across the global insurance industry and anticipated implications to the municipality. And lastly, to provide an overview of the insurance and risk management program and the value-added services provided and available to the municipality. So just to kind of give you an overview of Marsh McLennan, it's a global professional services firm with experts in risk strategy. And people with we have about over 83,000 colleagues across 130 plus countries, and MMC helps clients navigate an increasingly dynamic and complex environment through 4 market-leading firms, which is Marsh, Guy Carpenter, Mercer, and Oliver Wyman. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You had the presentation. I'm cognizant of your time, so I'm trying to make it a little faster for you guys. So those are the insurance and all the services provided by Marsh and McLennan companies. Just to give you a little bit information about Marsh, there are over 1,100 Marsh colleagues located in offices across the nation that work with our clients to deliver tailored risk and insurance solutions. Specifically, there are over 50 plus colleagues across Canada dedicated to supporting our public sector clients. And with more than 50 years of experience in the public sector, we help our municipal clients grow and communities thrive. To reimagine how to manage their bottom line by reimagining how risk is managed and how value is created. Through our public sector practice, our municipal clients benefit from the following: global reach, deep expertise, global market access. I'm just going to skip those just to because I have about 13 pages, so I don't want to take all your time. Our industry insight: as municipalities turn the page to a new year, many continue to recover from the impact of the pandemic while addressing the uncertainties as they move forward in the new normal. The current challenges they face include the following: resources are being stretched more than ever to meet the growing needs of our communities, pressure that has been placed on operating and capital budgets, transition to a virtual workplace will increase cyber and privacy risk exposures across many platforms. Facilities will continue to be impacted by severe weather events and deteriorating assets. Demands for social justice and enhanced cultural consciousness require action from organizations, and litigations will continue to rise as stakeholders increasingly demand higher standards of service. Well, the last several years have presented unprecedented risks. Municipalities have demonstrated their resiliency as they address risks that impacted their people, operations, and businesses. As municipalities move forward, their ability to deliver enduring value for their communities will be dependent on the ability to navigate the ever-shifting landscape and adapt to challenges posed by the new normal. Um, Industry insight. The global industry continued to navigate persisting challenges and uncertainties in a new normal. They are focused on maintaining stability and ensuring long-term sustainability, as well as they have taken steps to limit their exposures. Specifically, the main drivers for today's challenges are inflation and reinsurance. In those last renewal period, the premium increased this year for municipalities, but they were not as significant as those increases over the last several years. For example, the municipality with average loss ratio resulted in 10 to 15% premium increase. Property, as the cost of material will continue to soar along the continuing challenges related to supply chain, aging infrastructure, and increasing frequency of weather-related events, it has prompted insurers to reduce their exposure, especially in regions prone to flood, fire, hail, and earthquake. In the latest renewal period, the property premiums increased but remained relatively minimal, ranging from a flat to up to 6% rate increase. Liability as a medical cost increase, continue to drive up the cost of claims has resulted in insurers pursuing further insurance premium increases in an effort to reduce their exposure and account for the cost of long tail claims in the latest renewal period. The increases for primary liability on clean accounts range from anywhere from 6 to 10%, while increases for excess liability starts at 15%. And industry insight, cyber liability continues to be one of the toughest coverage to place. As cybersecurity incidents and resulting claims increases, many municipalities continue to focus on enhancing their posture, including retaining and approach cybersecurity coverage. However, many municipalities continue to struggle to find coverage. In the last renewal period, the premium increase ranged from anywhere from 20% to 100%, or sometimes a little bit higher. And it's accompanied by increase in deductibles and decreases in coverage. Medical malpractice, as municipalities continue to take steps to recover from pandemic. Pandemic exposures continue to be top of mind, but the level of scrutiny has relaxed a bit. In the latest renewal period, insurers have applied an insurance premium increasing between 10 to 20% with a relatively minimal change to coverage or deductibles. Auto and transit, they've remained sort of the same as last year. Insurers are looking to apply an insurance premium increase of about 3% for clean accounts, while it appears that the addition of electric vehicles on a fleet has not resulted in any material impacts to insurance rates yet. We expect this to change with the increasing adoption of these vehicles and information becoming more available regarding the risk profile. And just to give you sort of like an overview of the insurance, the limits of general liability are in front of you with the $10,000 deductible, and the property over here. This is the blanket limit currently with a $25,000 deductible, and the automobile policy it has a $5,000 deductible, and and the crime has the $1 million limit with no deductible, and so forth. If I know somebody had a question, I believe Diane, you had a question on this previously. We can go through that question if you like after. And this is the program overview for coverage and the carrier name, as well as the premium for the term 2023 to 2024. So the bulk of the premium is the general liability. And now this portion will be done by John. John, I'd like to introduce John Anko, who is our national practice risk manager. at public sector.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Just being mindful of time, so I'll try to do a concise summary and sort of tie it all together for the group.
Sure, we're already over 10 minutes, so if you could wrap it up pretty quick, that'd be appreciated.
Absolutely. So as part of the program that the town has in place with Marsh, just wanted to convey to the group that it does include risk management service that's already built into the pricing. So think about access to advisory service, think about risk controls, risk assessments, contract reviews, as well as other slew of resources from white papers to workshops that we can tailor to your respective needs. So it's a very unique setup that we have at Marsh. So it's really a direct access to myself and the team for anything and everything risk management. I think I'll leave it off there. If there's any questions, we'll take questions.
Yeah. No, very good. We appreciate. Well, there's certainly and there's an opportunity here for questions. So and I know folks here on council have seen your presentation, had a chance to read it, so I'm sure they'll have some questions and some opportunity for further discussion here. We'll start with Councillor Stack and then come to Councillor Davinsky.
Hi, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. On the slide where you break down our insurance policy, just for my edification, so when I see our CGL is at 5 million, is that the first umbrella excess 20 million in the aggregate or incremental? So are we saying that the first excess umbrella coverage, we have 25 million total, the next one moves up, is 20 million total, then the second umbrella is 25 million total, or are we talking 50 million?
We're talking 15 million cover liability altogether. So the primary limit is 5 million, and the first layer of the umbrella is 20 million. So that makes it to 25, and then 25 after.
Okay, so it's in the incremental. And then my next question, so for the deductible, just for clarity, that 10K deductible is whether we're going under the primary umbrella, first umbrella or secondary umbrella, and it's not an incremental deductible?
Only the primary has a deductible. The umbrella first and second layer do not have deductibles.
And then just so I'm clear on these increases, from what you were saying, so.
Sorry, Ms. Council, can you speak up a bit, please? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to read my notes.
No problem.
And then just so I'm clear, so for the clean accounts, where we're seeing, I think in one case you said 6 to 10% increases. So that's just a recognition of, in some cases, increases that go above CPI. So I'm noticing in some of the liability policies, we're saying, look, the cost of materials are increasing much greater than we've seen before. Makes some sense, but that 6 to 10%, can you, I can't recall what coverage it was. Is that
6 to 10% is let me just go back to my presentation. 6 to 10% is usually is for the liability policy. Yeah, it's for the liability policy.
Right. So
we're sometimes, and again, sometimes higher depending on account performance, whether they have a lot of claims or it's also generated by population, so it all depends on that.
And then my last question is, do we have a sense of, or do we have a count of what the total claims were made from our municipality in 2022? Just so I can get a sense of where we're at.
We do. I think I have forwarded that. I think I forwarded that to Daniel, if I'm not mistaken, but I can forward it to him again. Yeah, I think I did forward that. I can forward a detailed claims. Did you want one specifically for liability, or?
I'm just curious what our entire claim spread was for 2022.
Okay, I can forward that to you. I don't have.
Yeah, we can get it if you send it to our staff.
Okay,
our staff will circulate it to council.
Yeah, I can forward that.
Okay, then we get Councillor Davinsky, and then I have Councillor Halpin after that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And through you, thank you, Maribel. Thank you, John, for your presentations. And with all due respect, are you selling us insurance? Or are you a broker that wants to be hired to find best insurance rates for us? I'm a little confused.
We are your current broker.
You're our current broker.
Correct, yes.
I think,
Okay,
just to be clear, Councilor Davinsky, the municipality invited the folks from Marsh here today to give this update to council on our insurance program. So council is aware of it.
okay. My second question is, why is this before us? I don't know why it would be before us.
We can
Yes, I'll go
Give that to the
through
CAO. She'll answer.
You to Kara.
Thank you for the question and through you, Mr. Mayor. As part of our council orientation, we have a number of our providers that we were going to bring in for council. So again, as the mayor said, that you guys would have awareness on the program and you'd understand the municipality and its role with our insurance provider. So we have a few other additional presentations that will come forward, but we thought it was important for council to understand these circumstances.
And have we done, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, have we done this in the past? Did we do it last year?
I don't think we did it last year. That we have had updates from our insurance provider in the past, not in the last year though.
Okay, and again, I say, this to me looks like a staff job that should be done. And then recommendations brought forward, but I may be simplifying. It's just how I feel when I read it. And it's how I feel now. And that's not taking anything away from Maribel and John at all. But, and thank you for your coverage. But you're a broker. You're not covering us. You have other insurance companies to cover us that you look for.
Correct. Yes, we deal with, we basically work for you to find insurance for the township.
Okay, all right. Okay, I don't know why it's here and why the staff can't handle it.
It's really, staff has handled it, and it's really just to give you and us some information on what our coverage is and our deductibles. So council's aware of what we're spending and what we're spending it on. So it's just it's an information piece for us.
All right, thank you.
So I've got Councilor Halpin and I'm going to get the deputy mayor, and I also have Councilor Gray.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I was just wondering, what, you said how different premiums are increasing in this range. Is there a number for what our insurance has increased over the last year?
So what was your question again?
The council is just looking to know how much, a dollar figure on how much our insurance has increased since between 2022 and 2023.
I don't have the current numbers. I actually have sent it, but I can forward it to Daniel.
Sure. I just wondered, the director of corporate services in the room. Do you have a sense of an answer for that, director?
It was approximately a $70,000 increase over the 2 years off the top of my head, but I can confirm that and give a firm number.
Yeah, I can give you a more firm number on that tomorrow.
Yep, we will get that information then to the director and he'll circulate it to council. Okay, Councilor Halpin?
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
Very good. The deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think we're all having trouble with the microphones tonight. So if everybody can lean in, that would be good because it's hard to hear. I appreciate the report because it's over $500,000 of public funding. It's I like seeing it laid out. I believe when you mentioned before that Diane had some questions, I think it was me you were talking about. So I go back to when I asked the question, and I had really just been looking for confirmation that somewhere in here, the police were being taken care of because the volunteer firefighters got their own sort of stream on the chart. So one of my questions was related to the police are in here somewhere. As vice chair of the police services board, I have to make sure about that.
Of course, yeah.
I also was interested to know under volunteer accident and council accident, I believe what I asked was a question related to our members of the committees of council, like accessibility, planning advisory, and heritage, and also council. Are we covered for some liability things in there for our participation on boards and here? And I'm very hopeful that none of us will have an accident. So I didn't really understand why there was such a difference between volunteer accident and council accident in terms of the premiums and that sort of thing. But Most significantly, I was just interested to know that the police were in here, and the question was really if they weren't, I was going to then find out how they were covered separately. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for your question. I think there's two parts to your question. You were asking were you asking for if the police services are covered? The police services are covered under the municipal operation, because they are part of the municipal operations. Yes, they are covered under the insurance program under the CGL, which is a general liability. Accident coverage for counselors and the volunteer firefighter are totally separate. They're more the accidental insurance as opposed to liability. Now, for the accident coverage for the police, this should become covered under the police association, or it should be. And if they're not, please let us know. And for council and volunteer firefighters, they have a separate coverage. They are covered. Sorry,
Firefighters, sorry, not fight, just volunteers. The firefighters are in a category all by themselves. It's other committees so volunteer members of the community who serve on committees of council.
Right. So under the named insured in the policy wording, they are covered as well as the police force and councilors, board members, volunteers, and the volunteer firefighters. So does that help?
It does help.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now I have Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Maribel and John, for your presentation. I have a question on how you define or how the various companies define a clean account.
So basically, clean account is if there are no claims, which is sort of impossible because a lot of larger municipalities or townships have claims, but we're not looking at class action suit claims. We're not looking at, severe claims, whether it's like a big, a large claims where there's a fatality or there's a big slip and fall. That's an ongoing slip and fall claim for like 5 years. That's paid out hundred thousands of dollars.
Thank you. So even if there are several claims that there's no negligence on the part of anybody associated with a municipality, that would not be considered to be a clean account. If there's a claim that was the result of negligence or criminal intent even by another party.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, it would still affect the insurance premium, unfortunately.
So those percentages then could actually be greater than what are cited here.
So far, it hasn't really veered away from what was, what were quoted by the insurance company. It's, pretty standard that, unless there are huge claims, they usually stick with a 6 to 10% increase from last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any further questions from members? I don't see any, so thank you very much again for your presentation this evening. Thank you for coming in and giving us this update. We appreciate it's good information, some good questions, and so yeah, thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Take care, everyone.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our delegations, and now we're on to reports of municipal officers and committees and general government. And the first one is a staff report on the 2023 Roma delegation package briefs. The CAO tells me that staff doesn't have anything to any presentation on this one. These are here presented for your information, and just note that Councillor Grace and I did most of these delegations. Councillor Grace did the one to the MTO on her own, and I participated in the other three. And of course, the CAO and our manager of strategic initiatives, Jill Root, were present for each of them as well. Are there any comments on any of these? Councillor Mayette?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll refer to the MPO presentation, the delegation that was given You bring it up there. Yeah, that's for the section of highway between Port Elgin and Southampton, which is currently 80 kilometers an hour. It refers to in the last page, the third page says the Highway 21 safety motion dated February the 9th. So I went back through the minutes for the last 2 or 3 years, and I had a hard time finding a meeting of council that it was held on February the 9th. And if so, I don't recall ever voting, and certainly I would not have voted in favor of a motion that reduces that speed limit, because I don't think it's necessary, and many people that I speak to in the public do not agree that that should be reduced to 60 kilometers an hour either. And I think the MTO has repeatedly agreed with that position as well, and that's why they haven't changed it. So I was wondering where that motion is, if it in fact was passed by this council. Thank you.
I'm certain that staff could produce that resolution for us, so we could ask them to do that. And Councillor Grace has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that was referring to a motion that came before council in 2017. The motion was not to reduce the speed limit. It was to ask staff to meet with the Ministry of Transportation and to consider a variety of possible safety measures that might be undertaken to increase safety in that area at the rail trail crossing. And so as a result of that, staff met with the MTO officials who came and visited, I believe in June of 2017 for several days, and they did some studies. But one of the options that was presented in that motion was to consider the possibility of decreasing the speed limit to a constant 60 kilometers between Southampton and Port Elgin.
We'll certainly get a copy of that circulated out to council, that resolution, so everybody has it. Councillor Maya.
Thank you for the follow-up. So that the resolution was not to reduce the speed to 60 kilometers an hour, yet here we are, presumably representing the collective council to a position with the MTO officials, stating that it is our desire to have that speed limit reduced, when, as Councillor Grace points out, it was one of the options that was on the table as a possible resolution to the safety crossing at Highway 21 of the rail trail. But I don't think it's the collective, certainly not in my collective memory, that it is the decision of this council that that would be the preferred option to address a perceived or real safety issue at that rail crossing. And I certainly would never have supported such an option. Thank you.
Sure. Councillor Grace.
So just to follow up, I certainly appreciate your your point of view. I can tell you what I did in that presentation. I was representing or arguing to the Ministry of Transportation that I believed conditions had changed in that area significantly from 2017 to the present. One of the rationales that was given at the time when the ministry came back and said, we're really not going to make any changes or additions to, we're not going to really make any changes except say that it would be acceptable to maybe add a couple of signs at the crossing. Was that they said that this area was zoned agricultural, and that the mindset of the public when they are driving in an area that's zoned agricultural is that they feel that because they've got open fields and whatnot, that they can drive faster and that it's more acceptable to do that. So I looked at the zoning, and while there are sections that are zoned agricultural, there are also sections that are zoned commercial recreational and just commercial agricultural, sorry. So it's not exclusively agricultural. And I also counted up all the entryways. There have been some additions since that time period. And so that was the argument, but I do appreciate your point of your statement that this is not based on a resolution of council.
Yeah, I think the intention here is a continuation of a discussion that was ongoing in 2017, of which the discussion, the request was the ministry engage in talks with the municipality to reduce the speed limit. Those talks had already started in 2017 on a resolution of council. And so they're carrying on. But certainly it can be revisited. They will bring the resolution back. And if members wish to give a different view of council's opinion on that or anything else, of course, you can always bring a resolution to do that. So we'll get one more from Councilor Matt and then we'll come to the deputy mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think you may have heard something slightly different than what I just heard. I heard that the resolution of council was to have staff engage with the MTO to come up with a possible range of solutions to the perceived or real safety crossing of the highway. And one of those recommendations as a possible solution in that engagement with staff and the MTO was that a reduction of speed could be one of several options. But I don't think that ever came back to council to say that that was a preferred option.
No, and that's certainly not what is in this ask either. It's to engage in talks to reduce the speed limit between 80 kilometers and 60 kilometers an hour. And those talks started in 2017 on the basis of that resolution. Those range of options included reducing the speed limit, and it's still on the table in that regard in terms of talks. So I actually had Councillor Stack, and then I'll get the deputy then.
Yeah, thank you. So first, I think I think I had made similar comments when this was mentioned at a previous council meeting, but first I just wanted to thank the members who were able to attend and speak to the specific issue. This is something that I find very important. I do think this is a real danger. That crossing is particularly dangerous, particularly for families, for cyclists, for walkers. And while it's not up for debate at this point, given the context of the discussion, I would fully support a reduction of the speed. It's like we're talking 4 to 6 kilometers, where all of a sudden it goes up to 80 kilometers an hour. I fail to see the need for an 80-kilometer speed when there are people cycling across that use that path on a fairly regular basis. We're talking about making our community more environmentally friendly, more cyclist inclusive, more accessible for walking. So I think to suggest that it's not a safety issue and that there isn't merit for reducing the speed from 80 kilometers an hour to 68 kilometers an hour as at least something to explore as a means to make that crossing and that entire area more safe is very certainly not a position I agree with, and I think it merits discussion given the context of today's discussion.
I just want to make it clear. I don't think any members are suggesting they don't think it's a safety issue. I think all members agree that there's a safety issue in the area, but certainly we may need a discussion about what council's position is on the speed limit there, so we can clarify that. But I think I can speak for all members to say that, well, we are aware of the safety issue in that location and steps need to be taken. The deputy mayor.
Thank you. I don't know if this is a new way of representing all of this, but I don't recall ever seeing this kind of stuff in the past. So I think it's great to hear afterwards about what went on in those meetings. I can't believe you can do so much in 15 minutes. So I guess my comment initially is I think the manager of strategic initiatives, Jill Root, had something to do with all of this. So thank you, Jill. And for the rest of you that were involved, wow, 15 minutes and you had 3 solid pages of information that we're reading now. I did want to ask though, at a meeting earlier this year, Lisa Thompson, the member of provincial parliament for our area, had suggested that she was going to try and attend some of these. Was she able to get to any of the ones that we had scheduled?
No, the minister wasn't in attendance at any meeting.
Well, it was good that she was interested in doing that, and maybe next year. I did want to ask though, it's hard to gauge from the reports that we're receiving if any of you that were there had any good vibes or good sense of whether or not, you know, there was any meaningful understanding of where we were getting at. So perhaps not now, or if there's something that really jumps out, but I hope that you'll share with some of us going forward if you felt that some of them really did understand and were really willing to look into something on our behalf, because you know, we're a pretty special community, fastest growing community in Ontario, maybe. And in a very strategically located county. So they should be paying attention to us. But I really appreciate seeing this way. I never understood what you were all doing when you were in those little rooms for so little time. Now I see you're working really hard on our behalf. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and certainly agree with what you have to say there. And I would say that these meetings are always short. You're always presenting just at a high level what is in these reports. And of course, as you pointed out, and you're absolutely right, the manager of strategic initiatives, Jill, did a great job of putting these together. We handed these documents to the folks who were in the room, so they could take them with us, take them with them to get more detail than what we could present in the 15 minutes. But I would say that what this is about is continuing to get in front of the province and making these points over and over again. These are, for example, that MTO delegation. This is not the first time the town of Saugeen Shores has done delegations on the same issue. And we do them over and over and over again, and we'll just keep doing them until folks pay attention and do something. It's the same on many of these issues. And other members are going to attend other conferences this year, and we're going to ask for delegations wherever possible at those conferences and try to continue to get in front of the province on these issues and other issues. And it's important to note, we sort of what we did, we filed for these delegations in the transition period for this council, between this council and the last. So these priorities are reflective of councils in the council past or the previous council or where we've come from. But the current council, of course, has the ability to set the priorities and decide where we want to focus our lobbying. And so certainly encourage you to speak to me about what your priorities are and what things you'd like to see us advocating for at these conferences, because the taxpayer does spend money to send us there, and what we need to do when we're there is to represent them and try to get their issues and our local issues on the provincial agenda. So yeah, are there any other comments or questions? There's one comment I wanted to make on one of these because it's concerning to me, and actually the deputy mayor sent me an email about it today, and it was something we raised with the Ministry of Health, and it's been ongoing. In fact, Councillor Mayette raised it initially several months ago, which is the cancellation of private drinking water testing that occurred at the start of the pandemic when they stopped collecting those samples at our hospitals. And that service has not been restored in the town of Saugeen Shores yet. And it's concerning because I think it's leading, if it has not already led people not to have their water tested, it certainly will. We made this point very clearly to the Ministry of Health at Roma, and this council sent a letter to Public Health Ontario. The medical officer of health sent a letter and has met with Public Health Ontario. The County of Bruce sent a letter to Public Health Ontario, and yet no response from Public Health Ontario. In fact, my letter has not been responded to by Dr. Patel from Public Health Ontario. As far as I know at this moment, we haven't heard anything back from the Ministry of Health from our delegation. People are going to get sick. And I don't know, the province is not paying attention. And, we're only 40 minutes from the town of Walkerton here. And we all know what happened there when we had issues with testing of drinking water. And the fact that we cannot get the restoration of a service that existed forever. So the people in Saugeen Shores, and I might add people from Aaron Eldesley and people from the northern part of the town of Kincardine, folks from the Saugeen First Nation, so they can get their water tested. It's a 10-minute diversion on the route. Dr. Era put together a presentation to Public Health Ontario showing that it would take 10 minutes off their route to come to the Plex in Port Elgin and collect water samples. And Public Health Ontario said no, right to his face. So it's frustrating, it's annoying, and I would suggest everybody in the town of Saugeen Shores who's on private well water should write letters to the Minister of Health, to the province of Ontario, and echo their dissatisfaction with the province's response on this important issue. So there's nothing further on that. Then we will go on to the second staff report, which is on the Town of Saugeen Shores 2022 annual report. And we have Brent here. We're going to have our communications specialist.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having me, and through you. The report you have in your hands or in your inbox is a year-end summary of the town's achievements as measured against the goals set out in the 2022 business plan. 12 months ago, council approved a business plan and a budget outlining 29 major initiatives. Those were later upgraded to 37, and along with 68 divisional highlights, later upgraded to 73. So when council approved the plan, the chief administrative officer indicated the town would monitor the progress of these major projects and then measure the progress against that plan. The document, the annual report, breaks down those accomplishments by department and division and reports on their advancement. It also uses infographics to illustrate key numbers, such as a simplified graph of revenues and expenditures for both capital and operating budgets, new hires, attendance at recreational programs, et cetera. It's just a graphical way to show the information that we would like some of the citizens to see, or our citizens to see. So the purpose of the document is to give councils, residents, and community stakeholders an end of the year snapshot of the town's business. And then we've provided some context from the organization's senior leaders and managers. It's not intended to be as formal as a financial annual report that you may see before. Rather, it's meant to be read by and accessible by the everyday citizen to show the breadth and depth of the municipality's efforts to keep the community strong and prosperous. Note when I say accessible, we've heard that word a lot tonight, but I refer both to the plain and active language in the document and as well to the formatting which makes this document fully AODA accessible, whether you're visually impaired or hearing impaired or even physically impaired. This report will also serve as a template for the town to expand upon in the 2023 annual report, when staff will insert key performance indicators, they'll be known as KPIs, to show progress on major goals more precisely, so as well as where the organization can improve. I'd like to add one thing in that we included some photos and some comments from the corporation's senior leadership team and managers. We included these to show that staff, like council members, live here. They're our friends, they're our residents, they're our neighbors, they're fellow taxpayers, and they care deeply about this community. And that care is reflected in their work, and the document is proof of this care. So with that, I welcome any questions and or feedback.
Great, thank you very much. And just to start, it's a beautiful document. So well done. It's a really great piece of work. Questions from members, start with Councillor Davinsky and then the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I have a couple of questions, then a comment, if allowed. My first question, by the way, Brent is absolutely right. As I read this report, it is in layman's terms. I've always maintained that's what we should be doing, and that's exactly what was done in this annual report. So kudos to everyone. My first question goes to Development Services, Mark Howley. Mark, using, this is what's said in the report, using a provincial grant, we reviewed the town's process for development applications from pre-consultation to occupancy and identified ways to make them better. So if we have identified them, are we putting those ways into practical use now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question. Yes, Councillor Davinsky, we've taken the report that was delivered and identified in this annual report from 2022 and translated a number of those recommendations into specific initiatives in the 2023 business plan, including establishing internal application review timelines. A development fees review was one of the recommendations that we'll be advancing this year. We'll be uploading some old permit data that will make finding things more quick for staff. And we also included in the key performance indicators for the 2023 business plan and examination of our site plan timelines. So those are some of the things we're taking forward.
Thank you, Mark. If I could continue, Mr. Mayor. By the way, that was one of the things that I was really keen on when I first arrived on council, was to make it quicker for things to get done. And lo and behold, it's happening. That's exciting. My next question, through you, Mr. Mayor, goes to our Fire Chief, Ed Melanson. Ed, we are working, this again is a comment from the report. We are working with strategic initiatives to implement a communications app that can notify the public about emergencies and in real time. Has this happened yet, Ed, or is it coming?
Thank you for your question, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. It's coming. It's a twofold process that we're working on right now. The first one is an app that is going to go to the emergency control group, which is part of the EOC. So I'm working on that with Bruce Power, our internal individuals, and with Bruce County, trying to find the best method possible that maybe we can share or piggyback off to be able to find that app. And the purpose of that app is for immediate notification to all of the platforms that they may use, their home phone, their cell phone, text, etc., and them to be able to respond back instantaneously saying they're responding or unable to respond, so that we can make sure that we have alternates coming right away if the primaries can't show up. The second part of that is the notification of public, and I'm working through the process of similar to the Amber Alert that we're all aware of when something happens and the OPP pushes out messaging. We have the ability to do that type of alerting if we required to let all of our residents and visitors, guests, etc. know. We could push that out to the area around basically our cell coverage, and they would know that way. So I am working on those things. That is separate of what Brent was working on and the app that he's brought out. But those two we are working on as far as emergency management goes.
Thank you, Ed. And there's another example. Lynn Katie said earlier today that accessibility. This is accessibility. I have a comment, Mr. Mayor, and I apologize for reading it, but I want to make sure I get it right. I just want to say congratulations to the entire staff of Saugeen Shores who have had a part in this success, not just the ones we hear about at meetings, but those frontline workers who go about day in and day out, making the community a better place to live, work, and play. To the residents of Saugeen Shores, if you read nothing else from today's agenda, read this report. It takes your breath away at what has been accomplished in 2022. Personally, after reading the report, I thought we're done. There's nothing else left to do. Staff don't see it that way, nor do they think that way. If they've come this far, then there must be a further way to go to solve problems that haven't even surfaced yet. To them, the future is now. The future is Saugeen Shores. I hope this report will have a special link on our webpage if possible. Everyone should read this report and study it as well. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for those words, Councillor. I've got the Vice Deputy Mayor next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a little bit of a takeoff from John Davinsky, Councillor Davinsky's comments. Brad, I had a chance to work with you with the Lamont Sports Park fundraising campaign, and you just did a phenomenal job for our committee. And I just would want to really thank you for the great work you do for the municipality as a communication specialist. it's, you know, if there's anything that needs to be corrected at all, it's done quickly. And I just really appreciate all your great work, Bren. And a few comments. This report's so well done, 73 divisional highlights. And again, John's mentioned, Councilor Davinsky's mentioned some of this, but, you know, I think this council, you know, really 2020, 22, have done pretty darn good work, and staff have done phenomenal work, you know. And so, you know, tip of the hat to staff for all the great work. I like the way it's formatted. I like the ease of the read. John mentioned layman's terms. I like the detail, and I like what we've accomplished from a council perspective and from a staff's perspective. And so again, thanks, Brent. You know, it's really well laid out, and in layman's terms, and very easy to read. For a simple guy like me, it's very easy to read. And I'm just wondering, Brent, for the benefit of the members of the public, just repeat again, because John's right. Like, this is a good report. Everyone needs to read this. There are a lot of things accomplished in 2022. So where, just for the benefit of the public, where can they find this report again?
So currently it's merely housed in the agenda. Tomorrow, I will send out the report out broader via social media, via the website, and it will have a special home. There'll be a link on the front page. I don't know if you guys have seen the change on their front page. We have the features, 1, 2, 3, 4 major projects. They'll be moving in and out, and for the next little bit, the annual report will be there. And then once, you know, we feel that people have had a good look at it, then we'll throw in the knock on wood, the 2023 business plan and budget is passed by council in March. That will then go up there to replace that, and they'll be linked together.
That's great, Brent. And again, Ed and Mark and Kara and Janice, and I'm going to miss somebody, Jim. You know, Jill, it's really well laid out. And thanks for all your great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions from members? Councilor Stack.
Thanks. I think I've made this comment before, but I'm always very impressed by the style and the summation of all your work. I think when I was reviewing another one of your reports, I had said that I use it as a bit of a baseline for some of the work I do, and it always puts a lot of my graphics in particular to shame. So just kudos to you.
At least you know how to do some graphics. I don't know, wouldn't even know where to start. Are there further comments from members? So anyway, I think Councilor Davinsky said it really well, so I just repeat it. I mean, it's really extremely well done, and it's important to note, you know, this really demonstrates the incredible work that our staff does at every level, right from the CAO to our frontline staff and everybody in between. There's some great pictures of some of our staff members in here, and it's nice to see their faces in this document, because, you know, they say often when I speak to staff that if council ever looks good, it's only because of the work that our staff is doing on the ground every day. They just really do an incredible job. And I think it's so important. We have never done a good enough job in a high profile way of highlighting that work and highlighting year over year all of the detailed things. We end up around this table talking about 5 or 6 things that are high profile, you know, over the course of the year that get a lot of attention. But there's such a depth of work that goes on every day. And really, those are the most important things, because those are the things that make people's lives in our community good. You know, the plowing of the streets and the running of the ice rinks and all that stuff. So it's great to highlight it and make sure it's seen and make sure that it's celebrated. And this document really does a great job of that. So great work, Brent. Great work to all of our staff in putting it together. And I look forward to seeing it out on our website and out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I actually have 2 resolutions, 2 recommendations here I'm going to read. I got so carried away in the previous one, I forgot to read the recommendations, so I'm going to read them together. So it's recommended that council receive the Roma 2023 delegation package briefs for information, and that council receive the Town of Saugeen Shores 2022 annual report for information. If there's nothing further on either of those things, then all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to infrastructure and development, and we have a staff report on the year-end building department report for 2022, and we'll turn it over to the director. Or do we have the chief building official on here? We turn directly to the chief building official then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am here tonight to present the 2022 building numbers for Saugeen Shores. So 2022 was a very strong year for construction in Saugeen Shores. We saw 129 million in construction value, and that is the second highest recorded in Saugeen Shores. The only higher year was last year at 159 million. So we came close, but we didn't quite get there. Although we saw lower housing starts in Saugeen Shores, we did see a significant increase in the number of ARUs that we passed, and we also saw a very strong commercial construction projects numbers started. This year, the GIS department helped launch the interactive dashboard. So this is a mapping program that kind of helps visually show our building numbers, and that can be found on our website. We are also still continue to post our monthly numbers on the website. So thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there questions or comments on this report, Councillor Davinsky?
This is another good one. This is fantastic. Thanks to Josh Plants for the report and the impressive report as well. 2022 was a very strong year for building in Saugeen Shores. We continued to exceed the 5-year average for construction value and recorded the second highest year for construction value. Now, residential single-family dwellings are down slightly, but additional residential units are up. No, it's not medium to high density, but it's 18 more ARUs in 2022 than we had before. And for people say, "Ah, well, you're building a house, it doesn't do me any good." Oh, yes, it does. Because it broadens the tax base. And as long as that continues, it will affect you down the road as well. Once again, I hope staff will get this out in a news release. It's not only a good news story, as the vice president or the vice deputy mayor, Mike Might, likes to say, but this one is an encouraging story as well. 2023, it looks like it could be a banner year as well. 2 great reports. Just thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Are there further comments from members on this report? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just Josh, what are you hearing from developers? Single family dwelling, multi high density developments, commercial. What are you hearing out there in the community? What are you seeing with building permits to kick off 2023? I mean, we've had 4 or 5 pretty good years, banner years. And what are you hearing? You've got your ear to the ground, I'm sure.
I'm definitely seeing from the tail end of last year into this year a slowing down of the housing. We're still getting housing permits through, but not as quickly as 2 years ago. We're definitely seeing a lot of interest in larger commercial, larger residentials. So we're hearing a lot more larger stuff.
Yeah. Any, and we don't want to handle negotiations with these developers for the high density apartment units, but you're seeing some action with the various constructions of the world for higher density builds. Anything on the short-term horizon you're hearing or seeing?
Yeah, definitely the stuff that's coming to site plan approval. You guys will know that's coming through. Will eventually hit our books. So yeah, we are seeing a lot.
We're getting closer.
Residents, yeah.
We're getting closer.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Further comments or questions from members? I don't see anyone. Thank you very much for this report. You have a small department, Josh, and you guys do an awful lot of work, particularly over the last few years. You've seen an awful lot of that business across your desk and the desk of your colleagues in the building department. And I think, as you say, while we may be seeing a reduction in single family residential, we're going to see an increase in a larger scale commercial and residential. I hope, as the Vice Deputy Mayor was alluding to, that we see some of that higher density residential come across your desk, and that's complex work for our building department. Those are more complicated builds, and so we're very fortunate that we have a really excellent and highly skilled building department at the town that can do that work and make sure those buildings get built and that they get built safely. So thank you for your work and thank you for this presentation, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a recommendation the council receive this year-end building department report for information. All in favor of that? That is carried. Thank you. So that brings us all the way down to 8.7, communications for information. There's 9 items there. Comments, questions on any of those items? I don't see any. Okay, so then we'll move on from there then. And actually that brings us to the end of the committee of the whole agenda. So we will do statements by members and we'll start with the deputy mayor.
Thank you. And through you, have a couple of meetings coming up. So they haven't recently, don't have any from the immediate past to talk about. I do want to just give a shout out to the group that's organizing the coldest night of the year on February the 25th. Sorry, Dave, I just probably stole your thunder. We have a team in called Little Loving Hearts. That's with a few adults. We have a lot of kids involved, trying to inspire them to care about their community and participate in their community whenever they can. It was interesting, and I'll just end by saying it was interesting. I know she's not watching right now because she should be in bed, but one of the little girls who's on our team mentioned to me that she had seen me on TV a couple of times. And I challenged her on that a little bit, but apparently YouTube is TV to a 6-year-old. So if you ever have a chance to include, if you're watching, if you ever have a chance to include a child in anything to do with civic life, keep it fun, keep it simple at the beginning, but I think they're really interested. And let them see us on TV sometimes, because I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to throw out a congratulatory note to Ed Buckle. Ed Buckle today is celebrating with the Port Algon District Lions Club 20 years of service. And if you've tuned into the, if you know about the Lions TV bingo, and Ed's been around calling those bingos for 20 years or for as long as the bingos have been running. But I just want to just tip of my hat to Ed Buckle today. I know it's a big day for him and the club, and I just wanted to thank him for all the good service he provides to the town of Saugeen Shores. So thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you. Then we'll come to Councilor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm usually at the end of the list, but it's been a busy February so far. We had a Bruce County housing meeting, which I'll let you brief us on a little more. And of course, upcoming, thank you to the Deputy Mayor Heber for bringing up the coldest night of the year. If you haven't heard of it, CNOY is the website. Look it up. If you can't participate, there's lots of opportunities for you to sponsor, be it $1 or $10 or $20 or whatever you can afford. It's greatly appreciated. Funds going to the United Way of Bruce and Gray. And with that, I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilor Davinsky then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I saw the look he gave me. I've already donated $100 to someone, so we'll leave it at that. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Like I have to say it, that's coming up tomorrow. And like I have to say it, the Winterhawks are still playing great playoff hockey. Their next game is this Friday at the Plex. We're back at the Plex, 8:30, and we lead the best of 7 quarterfinal series against the Creemore Coyotes 2-1. We hope everyone can come out to the game. It's a lot of fun. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for the reminder. I hope that Mill Creek Chocolates is still open when we leave tonight. Councilor Grace.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Stack.
Thanks. Just a quick reminder, it looks like the Legion's going to be having their public speaking competition on February 26th. So I hope everyone, I'll get more details. I am actually judging, so I'm really excited. But hopefully people can attend. I think it's great to see young kids and teenagers do public speaking. It's certainly something I still struggle with. So it's always a bit humbling to watch teenagers and middle school kids outpunch me in terms of skill. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you. Nothing today. I'm enjoying my last day of a 2-week vacation. So I'll be back in Port Elgin tomorrow. So I'll see you all in person then.
Well, travel safe.
And also just to mention, I'm leaving my camera off because my signal is weak and everyone keeps freezing on my screen. So if I leave the video off, usually the voices do not. So understand. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I wanted to speak about an old friend. If you look at the back of the council chambers, there you'll see a plaque, and on the plaque is recognized Theed Seaman, Councillor Theed Seaman, who used to sit where Councillor Davinsky sits in these chambers, and he sat here for the Saugeen Shores Council chambers from 1999 to 2014, 15 years, and before that, he was a member of Southampton Council through the 90s. Served 22 years as a member of council, both for the town of Southampton and the town of Saugeen Shores. I was honored to know him. I know the deputy mayor and many folks who have served in this council will have fond memories of Theed. He was, I actually got to sit next to him for my first term on council, and I learned an awful lot from him. And he could be gruff at times, but the guy had a heart that would fill this room. So I just wanted, on behalf of the town of Saugeen Shores, to recognize his passing and pass along on behalf of council, on behalf of the entire municipality and all the people of the town of Saugeen Shores, our condolences to his family and to all of his many, many friends. I also wanted to comment on a couple of other things on the housing forum that Councillor Mayette raised, which was last Thursday, Bruce County Housing Forum. We had a good opportunity to hear from Bruce County about some of the work that the county's doing around housing, and had a good discussion with local municipal leaders about housing and some of the work that they are doing and some of the things that we can do together. It's the beginning of consultations around the development of the new Bruce County Housing and Homelessness Strategy, which will the consultations will happen this year and it'll be launched next year. So there'll be some public consultation with the development community, and the purpose is to chart the path forward as we continue to deal with the housing crisis in Bruce County and in all of our lower tier municipalities. And the other thing I just wanted to mention is late last week on Friday, myself and CAO and Manager of Strategic Initiatives had a meeting with Kincardine about doctor recruitment as a follow-up to the interest that was expressed by this council. So you'll hear some things coming out of that. I just wanted to say at a high level, though, it was a very positive meeting with Kincardine. I think Kincardine is under really great leadership now, and we have I think a really positive relationship with them, and a lot of hope of doing some good work together. So with that, we'll look for a motion to adjourn this committee of the whole meeting at 8:22 p.m. moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Councillor Grace. All in favor? The committee stands adjourned. Let's reconvene at 8:35. Okay, everybody, I think we're going to call to order this regular council meeting for February 13th, 2023. And the second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare now. Seeing none, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. We have no public meetings, so we're on to adoption of minutes. And I have a recommendation that council adopt the minutes of the planning committee meeting of January 16, 2023, and the regular council meeting of January 23rd, 2023, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of January 23rd, 2023, as presented. The remover and seconder, the vice deputy mayor and the deputy mayor. Questions or comments, any of those sets of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. All right, now we're going to go on to reports of the committee of the whole, and I have a resolution here that council received the residential intensification guideline report for information. Is there a mover and seconder for that resolution? Moved by Grace, second by Stack. Is there any questions or comments for that recommendation or report? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. And now we are on to bylaws. And we just have one bylaw up for consideration this evening. On there. Okay, no worries. So I have a resolution of the following bylaws hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 13th day of February 2023. And that's 1/12/2023, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 50/2021, a schedule of retention periods for the records of the town of Saugeen Shores. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Stack, seconded by Davinsky. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, and now to close to public resolution, council moving to close the public session to discuss matter in accordance with the municipal splashing. Sound like I'm on stroke here. Hold on, let me turn off and back on. Okay, oh no, I'm off camera. Here, hold on a second. You want to read this?
The council move into closed public session to discuss matters in accordance with Municipal Act 2001, Section 239, 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, Section 239, 2D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and Section 239, 2K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board for the purposes of discussion or negotiation for a recreation program service provider and personnel matters.
Thank you. Is there a mover and seconder? By Grace, seconded by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? As carried, so council will move into closed session. I assume we're going to a different Zoom link on this, are we? Or okay, so we will go to the other Zoom link and reconvene and close. Okay, I think we're ready to reconvene now in open session, and so we will rise and report, and I will report that council passed the close the public council minutes of December 15th, 2022. We received information on a personnel matter involving an identifiable individual, and we considered a staff report on operating negotiations with the Aquatics and Wellness Center. And arising from that, we have a resolution arising from close, and the resolution is that item number 10.3, bylaw number 14, 2023, a bylaw to rescind the memorandum of agreement with the YMCA of Owen Sound, Grey Bruce, be added to the February 13th, 2023 council agenda. Is there a mover and seconder? The deputy mayor and Councillor Davinsky. Questions or comments? None, all in favor? It's carried. And so I have a resolution here that bylaw 14, number 2023 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 13th day of February 2023. Is there a mover and second? Moved by Grace, seconded by Stack. Questions or comments? Councillor Davinsky.
Just one more time, I think the result of this, and we know what it's going to be, should go to the Y first. If we wait until the afternoon tomorrow to release the news release, or even the next day, it's not going to hurt him. But at least it will assure us that the Y had it first, and then we released it to the public.
Sure. Staff will, thank you. Staff will handle that appropriately. Any other comments? Seeing none, then all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so now we are on to bylaw 13. So I have a resolution now that bylaw 13, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council of the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 13th day of February 2023. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Davinsky, seconded by Stack. All in favor? That's carried. And finally, I have a resolution. This regular council meeting of February 13th, 2023, hereby adjourns at 9:23 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Mayette. All in favor? Council stands adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening, everybody.